In this section of the course, we're going to begin to explore the editing tools available inside of Smoke. Smoke is not just a finishing and effects tool, it is also a nonlinear editor. So you can bring your media into Smoke and start your project from here. Do your rough cut, trim the edit, and then begin to apply effects. We're going to explore those tools now and see both how they are similar to other nonlinear editing applications you may have worked in and some of the differences. Before we can begin to edit, we need a sequence. So I want to talk about the options you choose when you create a sequence and how to know what the correct options are. Just to give you an idea, let's take a look at creating a new sequence. I'm going to keep all of my sequences in this clip library called sequences. When I want to create a sequence, there are a couple of different ways to do that. I can always right-click on whatever clip library or folder I would like to create that sequence in and choose New Sequence. You can see here that the shortcut is Command-N, which is the same shortcut as in Final Cut 7. And as we've seen in other areas of the media library, those same commands exist in this gear menu down at the bottom. I'm going to make sure my sequences clip library is selected, and I'm going to use the shortcut Command-N. When you create a sequence, there are several things that you are deciding about that sequence that have to do with the format of playout for that sequence. And what's important to understand is that any media placed in that sequence that doesn't match that format has to be conformed to fit that format for playout. What this means is that if all of your media is one format, the best choices are those that match your media's format. It's also important to know that these decisions you make about the sequence cannot be changed after you start editing in that sequence. Specifically, you cannot later change your resolution, your bit depth, or your frame rate. Once you make those decisions and begin editing, that's the format of your sequence. However, if you start to edit your sequence and realize you've chosen the wrong format, you can always create a sequence of the correct format and copy and paste what you've edited so far into that new sequence. So the question is, how do you know what choices to make? If all of your media is of the same format, or if most of your media is the same format, having that information about your media is the best way to go. So what I want to know is with the media I'm working with, what is its resolution, its bit depth, and its frame rate. Let's take a look at how to get that information before creating the sequence. I'm going to cancel this. All of our media from the lab scene and the opening scene is the same format. So I'm just going to drill into this opening scene folder and show you how to get information about the format right here in the media library. Whenever I want information about a clip in the media library, the easiest way to get information is to hold down my / key, which is the same key as my question mark key, and click that clip. What comes up is this window that gives you information about the format of that clip. And what I can see here is that this is a 1920 by 1080 clip. Its bit depth is 10 bit. Its frame rate is 23.976 frames per second. As long as I'm holding down that / or question mark key, I can move my mouse to other clips and see information about them as well. And as you can see, all of these clips have those same format attributes. So that's what I want for my sequence. 1920 by 1080, 10-bit, 23.976. The good news is those are the choices we made when we created this project, but I wanted you to see how to get that information in case you created your project before knowing all of the details of your footage. Remember I told you when we create that project, those settings determine the defaults for sequences, but we can always change them later. So let's try that again. I'm going to make sure my sequences clip library is selected. I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut Command-N. And I'm going to double check. My resolution says 1920 by 1080. My bit depth says 10 bit. My frame rate says 23.976. Great. I'm in good shape here. Now, some other things that we may decide about the sequence that are changeable later on. We are asked how many video tracks and audio tracks we want to start with. Obviously, we can add more tracks later on while we're editing. So for the moment, I'll stick with the default of 1 video track and 1 stereo audio track. The other thing to take a look at is your starting time code. The default in Smoke is to start at the 10-hour mark. It's actually a European standard, and the original Smoke development team was a European team, which is why we see that standard here. I'm used to the American broadcast standard, which is a starting time code of 1 hour. And of course, depending on the project that you're working on, you may have other needs. If you're editing something for broadcast that needs bars and tone or slates in front of it, you may need to start at 58 minutes and 30 seconds. Whatever that starting time code is that you need, you can set that here. I'm going to click on my starting time code, which brings up the calculator, and I'm going to type in 1 hour. So 01000000 and click enter. That will now be the starting time code for my sequence. Another good trick to know, as long as this current session of Smoke is open, if I make any changes here, the next time I go to create a sequence, whatever changes I've made will still be there. If you close Smoke and reopen, this window will revert to the default set by your project settings. I'm going to name this Rough Cut and click Create. I now have a sequence open in the timeline that's ready for me to begin my editing. It starts at the 1 hour time code mark. It has one video track and one stereo audio track, and the format is ready for the footage that I'm going to place into it. In our next lesson, we'll start doing some editing.